reframing. So rewording how you talk about your struggles. And this is something that I'll say, like with clients, I see every single week is like a pattern, whether or not someone uses specific choice of words describing around like how their week went. But there's a really strong correlation with how deeply we feel our emotions and how we describe them. So if you take the two statements, like someone's like, I feel really anxious, I don't think I'm making any progress, versus I'm having the thought that my progress may be a little slow. I'm noticing that it's causing me to feel anxious. Which one gives you a sense of control? And really, I think this is pretty obvious. Which one feels very chaotic? Which one feels very dramatic? The second statement is honestly demonstrating that, like, hey, there is a point of like recognizing that these feelings could be wrong. Like they aren't set in stone. And I think what this comes down to is like, you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings. Like many people forget that there's a really big difference between themselves and their brain. And some things, some emotions, some thoughts can just manifest and be exactly that. And talking about your thoughts with a sense of humor, I mean, for me, it really helps. And this is something that I've had to get better with time practicing and becoming more aware around. But it's something that it's like, if I notice that I'm using like really strong language to describe my day, if, Jordan asks like, how are clients today, how are check-ins, and I can tell, and I hear myself just like being like, really negative or like using, again, really strong language, you realize like it kind of sounds ridiculous. Like it kind of sounds ridiculous relative to what I actually do. Like nothing in the realm of like fat loss, like luxury coaching, because that's essentially what it is. Nothing in the realm has like true dire consequences. Like this is all cosmetic modifications, like yes, improving someone's health, getting someone closer to their goals. But even in very serious situations, like it's not life or death. Like this is not something in which there are truly, like by definition, high stakes. And I think like what might be a better example is like when I talk about my own fat loss or when I talk about my own training, like the way that you talk about what it is that you're doing, like whatever phase that you're in, it's going to affect how you experience. And instead of saying like, oh, like I'm so hungry, I'm never gonna lose weight, if you can try to reframe that and like be conscious and be like, yeah, like I feel hungry. I feel hungrier today, but I don't need to eat right now. This is just a part of it. This reframes that experience and gives you control over your actions rather than just letting your emotions dictate that behavior. And I think this is where a lot of people get it wrong, is they will talk about their progress and they will talk about it with a lot of pent-up stress and a lot of beliefs that frankly aren't rooted in reality. And a good example is like, I'm starving and I can't do this. And if you can reframe this to become like, I feel hungry, and this is the most hungry I think I've felt in a long time. But I also know that hunger is representative of me being in a fat loss phase. I can handle this. I signed up for it even. This in itself is going to give you more control. And it's not to say that you need to avoid those thoughts and feelings. It's not even to say that you need to downplay them. I think that in itself is also detrimental. But I think you first have to decide, okay, when I'm going to talk about these, when I'm going to separate these thoughts that are going through my head or these feelings that I'm experiencing, what is actually occurring? Because in the state where someone is very hungry, it can feel very extreme. It can feel very uncomfortable. But I think the mistake that people make is assuming that how they're feeling it, like the magnitude of how they're feeling it, is indicative of how big of a problem it is. And, potentially in these cases where, I guess in the instance where I felt extreme hunger, at the end of a contest prep, I really have to ask myself, is this something that I can tolerate? Do I consent to continuing to tolerate this discomfort? Because at the end of the day, like no one's forcing you to go through a fat loss phase. The fat loss phase itself is something that you can decide at any point, hey, this is no longer worth it. I don't want to continue doing this. And I would say generally, if it's something that you can tolerate it, I think you have a responsibility to yourself at that point to not let these thoughts run rampant or become greater than they actually are. Now, one question I would ask yourself, will acting on this thought make things better or make things worse? And if the answer is better, then maybe the answer is to take action. And I don't mean in the state, will it make you feel better? Will it actually facilitate you getting closer to the outcome that you desire? Most of the time though, the answer is going to be that it'll make things worse. And acting on those thoughts often keeps you stuck, avoiding what you need to face in order to make progress.